So back to our channel, we have completed our blood physiology. So today we are going to start our CVS, that is cardiovascular physiology. So first we are going to start today with the organization of cardiovascular system. So you can see this is a chapter 29 from our guidance. So let us see our first, as usual, some of the important terms, and later let us understand them. So first we need to see here the capacitance vessel. So veins are called as capacitance vessel because they are the major reservoir of the blood. In the name only you can understand capacity means it has a higher capacity to store the blood. Reservoir means it is storing the blood. That is our veins, because veins are having larger lumen when compared with the arteries. So because of the larger lumen, they can easily store more amount of blood when compared with our arteries. Now let us see the conducting vessels. In the name you can understand conducting means something that is passing, it is like circulating, right? So large elastic arteries transport blood at high pressure to the tissue. So these are mainly, so large arteries are called as large elastic artery. Example you can take like aorta. You know that aorta is a large elastic artery. So these are the conducting vessels, because here the transport of blood takes place at very high pressure. So this is a conducting vessel. So capacitance means veins, they can store a lot of blood. Conducting means are large elastic arteries. Now let us say exchange vessels. In the name only you can understand, they're like exchanging something. Of course, what blood will exchange? It will exchange the oxygen, nutrients with the tissues, and tissues will give the waste to the blood, and blood takes it back to the right side of the heart. So that again it gets oxygenated by the lungs. So exchange vessels are nothing but capillaries. So capillaries are thin walled together with higher cross sectional area and low velocity of blood flow, and facilitating the exchange of nutrients and also other substances. So now let us see the resistance vessel. In the name condition, there is like resisting means not allowing the flow. So small muscular arterioles, by virtue of large proportion of muscle in their walls, are capable of offering higher resistance to the flow of blood. Yeah. So we have muscular arteries. We'll see all the divisions of arteries. So first we have big arteries, the elastic arteries. Later they are divided into medium sized muscular arteries, later into very small arterioles, and from arterioles they move on to the capillaries. So these muscular arteries are called as resistance vessel because they are having lot of muscle in their wall. Because of that muscle, you can understand it is acting like a resistance, not allowing the blood flow. So there is a resistance vessel. Now let us start a proper discussion. So the function of circulatory system. So actually what is circulation? Blood comes from our left heart mainly. From left heart, especially from, coming from left atrium, next to left ventricle, from left ventricle to aorta, from aorta to medium sized arteries, from medium sized arteries to arterioles to capillaries. In the capillaries they exchange with the our body tissues, and there from there into veins into inferior and inferior vena cava. So from inferior vena cava again come to the right atrium, right ventricle. So this basic structure, this basic organization everyone knows. Now let us see what is the main function of this circulatory system. Is to, of course, transport all nutrients to the tissue, transport hormones. Yeah, endocrine system, mainly hormones are transported by blood. And remove the waste and maintain the appropriate environment in all tissue fluids of body, mainly for the survival and also optimal function of the cells. So in kidneys, actually kidneys have an exception. Like in kidneys, the circulation have an additional function. Instead of this nutrients exchange, all this, it also has some extra function. That is, it's far in excess of metabolic requirements. Kidney require more metabolic requirements, and it is mainly related to the excretory function. So that is, it require a large volume of blood to be filled each minute. Because glomerular filtrate. Actually, what is that glomerular filtrate? We know that blood coming from the efferent uh, blood coming from the efferent arteriole into glomerular tuft. There, by force pressure, it squeezes into PCT. In the PCT, exchange takes place. So the blood is taken back, only that liquid is passed out at urine. So we know that excretory process. So for that excretory process, kidney is extra metabolic functions, and also it gets mainly required for the excretory function. So require the large volume of blood for every each minute. Large volume of blood especially needed for the kidneys. And now heart and blood vessels. So this heart and blood vessels are mainly controlled to provide the necessary cardiac output. So we know what is cardiac output in humans is like about 5 liters. We know that. And beats per minute is about our heart 72 beats per minute. So we know all these basic functions. So heart and blood vessels control to provide the necessary cardiac output, and arterial pressure to cause the tissue blood flow. Even pressure should be maintained. Otherwise, you can understand, very low blood pressure means the blood get cooled and it may undergo stasis and form some atheromas. And if it is very fast, it may lead to increase in blood pressure. So we know all this condition. So they should be maintained in a homeostatic fashion. So now let us see mainly circulation. Circulation is divided into systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. Everyone know ours is a double circuit mechanism. So systemic circulation is mainly supplying the blood to all tissues except lungs. Yeah, we know, because lungs mechanism is related to pulmonary circulation, and this systemic circulation also causes greater circulation of peripheral circulation, because greater part of the body, all parts of the body are almost supplied by the systemic circulation by our arterioles, capillaries. Yeah, so pulmonary circulation is mainly associated with right heart, of course, and systemic circulation is mainly associated with our left heart. Once we'll check out the systemic and pulmonary circulation to understand this with the help of this diagram. So here you can see. So first we'll understand the systemic circulation. So this is a left side of a heart. So from pulmonary veins, you can understand the blood is coming to the right atrium. From the right atrium, it is going to blood is coming from pulmonary veins into left atrium, from the left atrium to the left ventricle, and from left ventricle directly going into the aorta. You can see from the aorta it is further divided into arteries, arterioles, capillaries, and from capillaries it is entering into venules, veins, venous sinuses, and finally entering the inferior vena cava, coming up like this. So by inferior vena cava, it enters also from superior vena cava, from our head and upper regions. It comes from superior vena cava, head and neck areas. So from superior vena cava, that venous blood comes. So both of the venous blood finally enter into the right atrium. After entering the right atrium, they enter the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, they enter into the pulmonary artery. So from the pulmonary artery, it enters into the small capillaries over here. So this capillaries exchange between our lungs and again come back to the left atrium. So this is a mainly a double circulation process. So this is a pulmonary circulation which is mainly related to our right heart, and left heart is mainly related to the systemic circulation. So this everyone knows, just like a simple revision starting point. So yeah, we have completed this. Now let us see what are arteries mainly. So arteries transport blood under high pressure to the tissues and have a strong vascular walls. So you can understand, as the blood is moving to high pressure, if the walls are thin, they may rupture. So they should have very strong walls so that it can move in a very high pressure. So and the blood flow with very high velocity in the arteries. That's why they need strong walls. But remember that they're very thin when compared with the veins. Veins have larger lumen and thin walls. Why, you can now guess? Veins are having thin walls because the blood flow is very slow when compared with the arteries. That's it. So arterioles. Arterioles are the last small branches of arterial system. Yeah, we saw act as a control conducts by which blood is released into capillaries and have a strong muscular walls and can close the arterioles completely by relaxing and dilate vessels several fold, thus having the capability of vastly entering the blood flow in each tissue in response to its needs, and they are sometimes also called as resistance vessel. Yeah, we have already read this, that arterioles are the resistance vessel because they have a lot of muscle in it. Because of the lot of muscle, they act as a resistance vessel. But the main resistant vessel are muscular arteries. Even arterioles are sometimes called resistance because of their thin wall, thin lumen. They're like almost very thin lumen. So because of the thin lumen, they pass very fast. But remember that they have very strong walls because they are flowing with a very high velocity. So this is about arterioles, and now let us see the function of capillaries. Of course, arterioles next end into capillaries. So the function of capillaries is to mainly exchange fluid, nutrients, electrolytes, hormones, other substances between the blood and interstitial fluid. So these are also called as exchange vessels. So of course, first they will exchange with the interstitial fluid. Later they enter into inside the cell. You can understand, because blood vessel, it's a capillary. Capillary is in the interstitial fluid, right? Because inside capillary we have plasma fluid, and outside that we have interstitial fluid. That is, interstitial fluid means in between the cells, and later it will enter into the tissue cell. So first it exchanges with the interstitial fluid, and from that it can enter into the inside of the cell. So capillary pores are mainly permeable to water due to thin capillary walls and permeable to small molecular substances. But remember that the capillary walls are not permeable to the plasma proteins because there are very large and negative proteins which can't cross the membrane. Only water can, and small molecules can cross the capillary membrane. So next, you can understand now. Now capillary is completed. Now venules come here. Venules collect the blood from the capillaries and coalesce into the larger veins. So now venules come and venules into larger veins. So veins function as conduct of transport of blood from the venules to the heart. You can understand. Again from veins, the blood reaches into the right atrium. So they are reservoir of extra blood and called capacitance vessel. Yeah, because you can understand in veins the blood flow is very slow and they're having very large lumens and thin walls, so that they're also called as reservoir. They can cooling of blood also takes place in the veins itself, but not in the arteries, because arteries move very their flow is very fast with high velocity. So pressure in venous system is very low and the venous walls are also thin. That's it. So 85% of entire blood volume of the body is in our only systemic circulation, because it is a greatest circulation supplying whole of our body, and 16% is only in the heart and lungs. So because you can understand only 16%, because heart also needs blood supply to work, right? Not only all our organs, even heart need its blood supply. It is mainly done by coronary arteries, and that is only 16%, that too including heart and lungs. Even for lungs it is included, means you can understand 8% for heart, 8% for lungs. So among this 84% in systemic circulation also, 64% of blood is present only in veins. You can understand, because veins are like having slow flow, so lot of blood just is present in the veins. And 84% blood, in the 84% of blood, 13% of the blood is present only in arteries, and that too 7% is present in systemic arterioles and capillaries. So in capillaries somewhat the blood flow is slow, because it need to exchange it with the tissues, right? So only at the capillaries the blood flow may decrease, but in all other arteries, arterioles, it is very fast. So heart have mainly 7% of blood, and pulmonary vessels contain the 9%. And the cross section of veins is much larger than arteries, about 4 times those of arteries, and this explains large blood storage capacity of venous system in comparison to arterial system. Yes, so because same volume of blood flow must pass by each segment of circulation per each minute, the velocity of blood flow is inversely proportional to vascular cross section. You can understand, the velocity is inversely proportional to vascular cross section area. Means if the cross section area is very high, then the velocity will be slow. That's like vein. In vein you can understand cross section area is very big and the flow is very slow. Whereas in the case of arteries you can understand the cross section is very low, then the velocity is high. So velocity always inversely proportional to the cross sectional area, whereas velocity is directly proportional to the blood flow. Higher velocity, higher blood flow. So under the resting conditions, the velocity is average only about 33 centimeter per second in the aorta, but it is only 1 by 1000 as rapid in capillaries, about 0.3 millimeter per second. So what they are saying, in resting condition the velocity average is like about 33 in aorta, right? Under the resting condition the velocity average about 33 seconds, and in aorta but is only 1 by 1000 as rapid in capillaries, about 0.3 millimeter per second. In capillaries it is 0.3, and capillaries length is like about from 0.3 to 1 millimeter, and blood remain in the capillaries for only 1 to 3 seconds, because all nutrients and substances electrolytes occur by the capillary walls must be performed in a short time. So even blood will not stay longer in capillaries, only it stays up to 1 to 3 seconds to exchange with the blood tissues in smaller time. So mean pressure in aorta is increased about 100 millimeter per mercury as heart is pumping, is pulsatile, and arteries pressure alternates between systolic blood pressure of 120 and diastolic pressure of 80. This we will understand very detailed next lesson. In mainly in cardiac cycle we can understand that. And as blood flow by systemic circulation, the mean pressure falls to about 0 by the time it reaches or terminate at the superior and inferior cava, where they empty into the right atrium of the heart. So you can understand when the termination point is coming on, then all the values come and fall down to 0, especially at superior and inferior vena cava. So systemic capillaries pressure is higher, like about 35 milligrams mercury near arteriolar end, and it is as low as 10 milligrams near the venous end. So the venous end is only 10 milligrams, whereas in the arteriolar end it is very high. You can understand, because pressure is high in a arterial side. And the average functional pressure in the vascular beds is like about 17 millimeter per mercury, and little plasma leaked by the minute pores of capillary walls. In pulmonary arteries, the pressure is pulsatile, just as in aorta, but the pressure is far less when compared with, yeah, Pulmonary. Always remember, pulmonary circulation is also similar to a systemic circulation, but the only difference is the pulmonary circulation, the pressures are somewhat low when compared with our systemic circulation. Why? Because you can understand, systemic circulation need to supply all our body, so it requires higher pressure, whereas pulmonary circulation only supply to the lung, so only some pressure is enough. So pulmonary artery systolic blood pressure average, not blood pressure, pressure. Pulmonary artery systolic pressure average about 25 milligram, whereas our systolic blood pressure is like 120. You can understand how much difference it is having. And diastolic pressure is like 8 only, but ours uh, means I mean our systemic circulation blood pressure is 80, whereas pulmonary blood pressure is only like diastolic blood pressure is only 8 milligrams with a uh, mean pressure of like 7 milligrams. So when the tissues are active, so you can understand, whenever the tissue is very active, when it is in work, when it is in exercise or like that, there is a great supply of nutrients. It requires higher much blood flow, so like as 20 to 30 times than the normal levels, than the resting levels. So the local microcirculation, central nervous system, nervous functions, hormones provide help in controlling the tissue blood flow by dilation, if to increase the blood flow or nutrients and oxygen exchange more. So for example, if you're doing heavy strenuous exercise, then in that case, not only our artery system, even our central nervous system, hormones, microcirculation come into action. They are giving additional help to our systemic circulation, that they are helping in local vasodilation. Because of vasodilation, you can understand, vasodilation is like this: the blood vessel is becoming more big, so that blood can accommodate more. It can means blood flow is increased to that area. So because of the increase in the blood flow to that area, you can understand the nutrients, oxygen, all those can easily exchange with the tissues, and they can get higher energy when compared with resting levels. So cardiac output. So cardiac output is nothing but the sum of all local tissue flows. So cardiac output mainly depends on even on the local tissue flows. So the heart responds automatically to increase in the inflow of blood by pumping it back to the arteries. So whenever heart understands that there is more blood flow, then it just pumps back some of the blood into the arteries itself. This is like automatic response to it. So heart acts as an automaton, that is responding to the demands of the tissue. And arterial pressure regulation is mainly generally independent of either local blood flow control or cardiac output control. So arterial pressure regulation is independent factor, not depend on the local blood flow or also on cardiac output control. So for example, if any time the pressure falls below the normal of about like 100 milligrams per mercury within seconds, the barrage of neurons reflexes elicits a series of circulatory changes to increase the pressure back towards the normal. So whenever the pressure is any change in the pressure, our nervous system is so smart that it immediately within the seconds it will bring it back to the normal. So nervous signals increase the force of heart pumping, cause contraction of large venous reservoirs to provide more blood to the heart, and cause constriction of arteries in many tissues, so that more blood accumulates in large arteries to increase the arterial pressure. You can understand, whenever the constrict, the pressure increases, and then over more prolonged periods or hours, days, kidneys play additional major role in pressure control, both by secreting the pressure controlling hormones like renin, aldosterone system, and also by regulating the aldosterone system by regulating the blood volume. So kidneys also help in regulating when the pressures of the blood are changing. So our kidneys help, a different kind of hormones help, different kind of nervous reflexes help. So all this and local factors help. So all this, by using all this help, our body can just regulate the blood pressure. So this is all about our organization of cardiovascular system physiology. So now we will discuss some of our textbook points and diagrams. So we have completed this one. So you can find this diagram here. This is a normal blood pressure in different portions of circulatory system when a person is lying in a horizontal position. So you can see here, this is the left ventricular pressure. It's like about 120, and the aortic pressure is also nearly between 100 and 120. And you can see this is the right ventricular pressure and pulmonary artery pressure. You can observe that pulmonary side, right side, having lower pressures when compared with the left side. of the heart. So you can see the systemic and pulmonary circulations over here. This is the left atrium, it is like about 0. In the left ventricle it has reached 120. In the aorta it's also in the same range, and in large arteries it's also like somewhat increasing. Small arteries onwards it started declining, and the arterioles it declined more. And capillaries, veins, right atrium, it's again back to 0. Whereas in pulmonary you can see even in the right ventricle it's the same, only just up to 20 to 40. In pulmonary arteries also, and arterioles again further decrease. In capillaries, venules, pulmonary, finally coming to the 0 in the pulmonary circulation. So you can see the vessel and its cross-sectional area. So aorta have a cross-sectional area about 2.5 centimeters square. Small arteries have 20 centimeters square. Arterioles have 40. Capillaries have 2500 centimeters square. Venules have 250. Small veins have 80, and vena cava are 8 centimeters square. So this formula we already discussed. And here we have the final table, that is a comparison between pulmonary and systemic circulations. So you can see the blood flow in systemic circulation is 5, in pulmonary also 5, and percentage of blood flow is 84 in the case of systemic and only 9 in the case of pulmonary. Arterial blood pressure is 120 by 80 in the systemic circulation, whereas in pulmonary it's only 25 by 8. And oxygen content of arteries is 100% in the case of systemic circulation and only 40% in the case of pulmonary circulation, that is PO2. So this is all about our first lesson of that is our 29th lesson of Guyton, organization of cardiovascular system.